automate.
You're watching Breaking Ground. I'm Vedika Su. The silence louder than any slogan as the Middle East edges closer to a wider war, as missiles fly, oil markets tremble and tumble, and global powers posture. Iran's women's football team stood still and refused to sing their national anthem. No banners, no chants, just silence in the middle of a region on fire from Tehran to Tel Aviv. That silence is being heard world over. Was it protest? Was it defiance? Or was it a quiet? Israel's offensive against Hezbollah strikes Hezbollah command centers and weapon facility. Huge blasts heard in Beirut. Iran continues to pound Israel. More than 30 missiles fired. Sirens blare across Tel Aviv. Iran intensifies attacks on Middle East. Missiles fired in Jordan, Bahrain, Riyadh. The U.S. Embassy in Riyadh attacked. Trump warns of retaliation. U.S. issues depart now alert. Trump's big war can be fought forever. Warning says America has virtually unlimited supply of weapons. Asserts U.S. is stocked and ready to win big. Inside the plan to kill Ali Khamenei, reports say a human source provided exact time and location for strike to kill Ayatollah. Israeli intelligence allegedly hacked Tehran traffic cameras for years. Shutdown of Hormuz Strait raises fears of soaring oil prices. Iran warns will attack ships trying to pass Hormuz. That will be a focus at 12:30 p.m. this afternoon. Few flights from Middle East resume. Relief for stranded Indians. Air India and Indigo partially resume flights. Well, the Israel-Iran war is only intensifying by the minute. Missiles fly thick and fast, with both sides warning each other. There's death, there's destruction on both ends. Buildings have turned into rubble. We bring you the most defining images from the war zone from both ends. Explosions rang out across southern Beirut, with plumes of smoke seen rising over the Babda area. Israel is said to have targeted a Hezbollah weapons storage facility. A commercial airplane was seen amid smoke and explosions after Israeli airstrikes hit the Lebanese capital. The U.S. military has released video of a strike on an Iranian ship. The military said that it had taken out 11 Iranian warships. The IDF has launched a video of attack on Iran. Air Force aircraft attacked and neutralized a squad of soldiers from Iran. Israeli Defense Forces strike over 70 Hezbollah terror group weapon storage facilities, launch positions and launchers as West Asia war widens. Hezbollah-affiliated Al-Manar TV was hit by Israeli airstrikes in Beirut's southern suburbs. The Israeli Defense Forces issued an evacuation warning for the area of Beirut containing the channel's headquarters shortly before the strike. Iran allied fighters have released footage of targeting the US-run Victoria base near Baghdad International Airport. 2 drones targeted the US Victoria base near Baghdad International Airport. Iran launches new super heavy missiles. Iran is targeting US bases in the region as no end of war is in sight. Situation in Middle East escalates as Iraqi resistance group carried out drone attack on hotel housing US troops in Erbil. Iran has launched a fresh wave of ballistic missiles and drones across Israel. Sirens rang out across Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and southern Israel. Breaking news coming in, fresh Israeli strikes on Iran. That's the latest we have for you from this morning. Both these updates coming in at a time when we also have Aditya Rajkol live with us. Aditya is live from Israel at the moment. Aditya.
And fresh Israeli airstrikes have completely rampaged across Iran, particularly in Tehran. And this is after the fresh warning that came in from US President Donald Trump and also Prime Minister Netanyahu that the military offensive is not going to end. Operation, Fury and, of course, Operation Roaring Lion continues in Iran. There are, buildings that have been attacked. These buildings are likely attached to the Iranian regime and the IRGC. That's what we are picking up. We are trying to get more details from the IDF on the nature of these explosions and what exactly was the main target. But in the last 4 days, we've seen drastic changes in the way IRGC, the governing leadership in Tehran, and also police stations have come under attack, those who were involved in subjugation of the democratic protests that were taking place in the last few weeks across Iran. So certainly a very, very developing situation right now. Early morning, we had reports from at least Saudi Arabia and UAE that 2 blasts were heard. And in fact, there was the US embassy in Riyadh that was also, targeted. 2 drones from the Iranian side had in fact attacked the US embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And now reports emerging of a fresh escalation. And now hours after US President Donald Trump and the Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth, warned Iran of consequences if they do not come on the table and perhaps surrender, then there will be consequences. And these consequences are up in smoke right now, clearly visible on the streets of Iran. Fresh airstrikes have been launched by Israel against Iran. We had the leadership in US and also Israel indicating that the next round of the attacks will be much more lethal, and that's what is visible now across Iran.
We've spoken for a moment here on those fresh attacks on Iran. I want to understand from you, you're in Tel Aviv. Take us through what's been happening in the last couple of hours. You've been there. What's the latest from the ground?
Well, overall, there's an eerie calm right now across Israel. Since morning, there's been only once, early morning, that there was an alarm that was buzzing all across. That was at around 12:41 a.m. I was asleep and I was woken up because there is an automatic system on all phones. There is a buzzer sound that goes off with a message to take shelter, immediately rush to a bomb shelter. And that's what happened at 12:41 a.m. Since then, there hasn't been any kind of warning across Israel right now, but the Israeli IDF, the Air Force and the security agencies are monitoring situation very closely. They do expect a new round of Iranian missiles to hit and target Israel in the next few hours. Yesterday, there were attempts made by Iranian regime to target government offices across Jerusalem. That was thwarted. That happened the moment I was about to enter the foreign ministry for the world exclusive interview of Gideon Saar, the foreign minister of Israel. I was stranded for 2 hours at the gate of the foreign ministry yesterday because of the nature of the Iranian missiles that had come in. It was, almost surreal the way I, experienced the kind of missiles coming in and the Iron Dome and other batteries really taking charge and thwarting and neutralizing such attempts. Now, there have been some instances in the last 4 days where there has been impact on ground. As of now, the casualties stand at around 11 here in Israel, and overall more than 50 people have been injured in 3 different incidents in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Now, normally Jerusalem does not come under attack, but a particular place in between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem has been targeted, and there was a roadside car that was driving was also targeted, in which 7 people were injured. But in the last 12 to 20 hours, there hasn't been any kind of a major impact that's been seen on ground. But there have been videos that have been released by the IDF suggesting potential attacks that have happened in Iran at the same time in Lebanon. And yesterday, NDTV was the only network globally to interview the foreign minister, Gideon Saar, as well as Prime Minister Netanyahu. Back to you.
Aditya, do stay with me. I'm going to come back to you in a moment from now, but a quick update also on the Hezbollah front. After Hezbollah launched rockets on Israel seeking revenge following Khamenei's death, Israel has now launched an offensive campaign against Hezbollah, opening up the Lebanese front up north. As per reports, over 70 ammunition storage facilities of Hezbollah have been destroyed by Israel so far, including the elimination of Hezbollah's intel chief. Now, the latest information indicates that Israeli army have struck Hezbollah command centers and weapon storage centers. Lebanon government claims at least 52 people have been killed. Not just that, Israel has also set the target on the back of Hassan Nasrallah's successor, named Qasim, who serves as the new head of Hezbollah, stating that he is marked for elimination. Hezbollah has come out with a statement saying that aggression can't go on without response, and confrontation is their legitimate right.
בלילה, מטוסי הקרב של חיל האוויר טסים מעל שמי לבנון ותוקפים בעוצמה עשרות מטרות של ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה. הבוקר חיסלנו בתקיפה ממוקדת בדחיה שבביירות את חוסיין מקלד, אחראי מטה המודיעין של ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה. בנוסף, השלמנו סדרת תקיפות נגד נכסים כלכליים מרכזיים של אגודת אל-קרד אל-חסן, המשמשת כתשתית מרכזית לניהול כספיו של ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה. אתמול בלילה, מטוסי הקרב של חיל האוויר טסים מעל שמי לבנון ותוקפים בעוצמה עשרות מטרות של ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה. הבוקר חיסלנו בתקיפה ממוקדת בדחיה שבביירות את חוסיין מקלד, אחראי מטה המודיעין של ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה. בנוסף, השלמנו סדרת תקיפות נגד נכסים כלכליים מרכזיים של אגודת אל-קרד אל-חסן, המשמשת כתשתית מרכזית לניהול כספיו של ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה. אתמול בלילה.
Our objectives are clear. No nuclear weapon, no ballistic missile threat, destroy their navy, and crush the regime's proxy network. We are hitting decisively, surgically, without apology. While we strike military facilities, the machinery of terror with precision, the Iranian regime strikes civilians. We will not stop until we achieve our objectives.
Yusuf Jalali, correspondent from Tehran, is joining me live at this point. Yusuf, I'm going to come back to you in a moment from now. I need to go across to Aditya once more. Aditya, I want to understand from you, we're talking about this fight, the conflict also with the Hezbollah at this point. But this should remain a worry both for the US as well as Israel, the proxy war. For now, it's just the Hezbollah, but there is intense backing that Iran has through proxies.
Well, in the last 2.5 years, Vedika, you've seen how Hezbollah has been targeted by Israel ever since the 7th October 2023 attacks. We've seen Hezbollah top leadership completely being wiped out of Lebanon and also other locations where they were taking shelter. So clearly, the Hezbollah is not as strong as it used to be earlier. Yes, they may have a stockpile of missiles and weapons still, but many of those stockpiles and ammunition centers in Lebanon have been targeted. The intel chief has been killed already, and there are other casualties that have been reported from Hezbollah side as well. This after yesterday, some projectiles from the Hezbollah side from Lebanon were fired towards the Israeli side on the northern borders, but clearly there wasn't any kind of damage that was seen or an impact on ground. So clearly, I don't think that the proxies are a major challenge as of now. The Houthis maybe who can perhaps target the connectivity and the shipping routes right now. The Strait of Hormuz has been blocked. That's what the statement from Iran says, and it says that if any of the Western, alliance of US and Israel try to pass through, they will be attacked. There are several naval bases also that have come under attack, but the strike against Hezbollah continues. At the same time, fresh strikes against Iran by US as well as Israel.
Do stay with me, Aditya. Yusuf is with us. He joins me live from Tehran. Yusuf, thank you for joining me here on Breaking Ground. I first want to understand from you, what is the real mood inside Tehran right now? Is it defiance? Is it fear? Is it fatigue? Are ordinary Iranians bracing for escalation? Or do they believe this will remain calibrated?
Well, of course, looking at the streets of Tehran, you can see life going on. People are going by their daily businesses, except for the closure of the schools and universities and big shopping centers or malls. The rest of the city, at least when it comes to the capital, Tehran, which has absorbed much of the strikes by the United States and by Israel, this shows that Iran tries to project an image of defiance and resilience against the incoming strikes. In the eyes of Tehran, in the eyes of the Islamic Republic officials, Iran has survived those attacks and will continue to launch retaliatory strikes against American assets and Israeli territories. And of course, the Iranian officials are now saying that the demise of the supreme leader is not tantamount to the collapse of the Islamic Republic. And they have been trying to send this message over and over again through their national television, through their messaging, through their interviews with Western outlets. The Iranian foreign minister made it clear and echoed such a stance, saying that the Islamic Republic does not depend or rely on a specific or a single person, even if that person is a supreme leader. So now the country
stand from you as well at this point. Is this conflict then, Yusuf, strengthening the establishment? Is that what they're trying to portray, or exposing the cracks? How is the leadership framing this internally? Is it an existential or perhaps a manageable confrontation?
Yes, they're trying to tell their own people, at least when it comes to the Iranian national television. They've been trying to boost the morale of the people, and of course their military, their soldiers, and of course trying to tell their own people that this is an occasion where everybody from across the political spectrum, no matter what political background you're coming from, there's a need to bridge the gaps and focus on a specific and a common enemy. But of course, it remains to be seen how this narrative is going to be fulfilled or materialized, because there have been some instances where the public are not joining this call for unity. That there have been some instances where people try to show that they're still having some grievances over the Iranian government. But of course, we've been seeing and hearing messages coming from high-ranking Iranian officials calling on people to stay united in the face of the enemy. But this time around, you can see that the Islamic Republic has changed the nature of the war with the United States and with Israel compared to the June war, which we saw that the Iranians launch massive salvos of missiles towards the Israeli territories. Right now, they're trying to...
Yusuf, you've got to stay with me. I have some breaking news coming in. I'm going to come back to you in a moment from now. In news just coming in, the US has ordered the departure of non-emergency government personnel and family members from Jordan, Bahrain and Iraq. The State Department has made this statement today. Now, the latest that we have for you is that non-emergency personnel and their families are to leave Bahrain and Jordan. And they've also announced that it had ordered staff in Iraq to leave a day earlier as Iran retaliates to US-Israeli strikes. Aditya Rajkol still with me. Aditya, Iran has made it very clear that they are going to target US citizens, US personnel. We now have an advisory coming out for non-emergency personnel from the US.
That's right, Vedika. That's the latest that we are picking up. Early morning today, the US has sent out an advisory, in fact, a notification for all the non-emergency staff in Bahrain, Kuwait and other places to, in fact, evacuate immediately. This is the non-emergency staff and diplomats and their family members who are stranded there. They do not need to be there. That's what is being told. This is because of the escalation in the confrontation between Iran, US and Israel at this stage. US President Donald Trump, Peter Hegseth and others have maintained that the next level of the confrontation is going to be much more bigger and wider. That clearly indicates that the Iranian side may also choose to continue to attack not just the US air bases across West Asia, but also US embassies. We have seen attacks taking place in the US embassy in Saudi Arabia and other places also, in which there have been some minimal damage that has been reported and some injuries as well. So that's why family members of diplomats who are not essential, who are not required for any emergency, have been advised to leave immediately. So they are taking precautions. They're moving away from the US embassy and the US soil on these West Asian countries where US bases are. So that's the latest that we are picking up. US preparing for the next few days of the assault against Iran and preparing also for the kind of retaliation they expect from the Iranian side.
Aditya, do stay with me. We have related breaking news coming in. There is a security alert as well in Kuwait. The US Embassy in Kuwait has closed, is what we are learning, due to the ongoing regional tensions. The US Embassy in Kuwait will be closed until further notice, is what they're saying. They're also going on to say it when the embassy returns to normal operations. Aditya, given what we've seen in Riyadh, this was expected.
Well, yes, that's right, Vedika. US Embassy in Kuwait has now been completely closed. Consular services will not be functional. The non-emergency diplomats, workers will be leaving the premises to safety and then moving back home as soon as they get a clearance of the airspace and the airports being open and functional. But clearly, this indicates the kind of time that we are in. Today is the fourth day of this, kind of confrontation and war that is emerging between Iran on one side and Israel as well as US on other. But who is bearing the brunt of it all are other countries where US bases are located. Many of the civilian areas have been attacked as well. But if we go by the kind of statements that have come in the recent hours from Israel and United States, it does seem like that the US and Israel joint forces in this operation are looking at a new level of confrontation. In fact, the Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion will enter a new phase in which there will be wider consequences for the Iranian region. That's what we are picking up. We have seen fresh attacks taking place this morning against Tehran, but it's likely that is going to be increased manyfold.
All right, Aditya, do stay with me while we just take our viewers through all that's happening in the Middle East at this point. The big story here is that the US President Donald Trump has claimed that US munitions and stockpiles are at a record high and that US has virtually an unlimited supply of weapons. He claimed that it can fight a war forever with the current supplies and is ready to win it big. Also, the US Department of State on Monday called on Americans to immediately depart more than a dozen countries in the Middle East, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, amid US-Israeli strikes against Iran. Murad Namdar, the State Department's Assistant Secretary for Consular Affairs, said US citizens should leave using available commercial transportation due to safety risks. The UAE has slammed a report on its stockpiles. In a statement issued by its foreign ministry, it said that it has a robust stockpile and will ensure sustained interception of missiles from Iran. UAE was reacting to a media report that had questioned UAE and Qatar's stockpiles. A report from the Office of Intelligence and Analysis at the Department of Homeland Security said Iran and its proxies probably pose a threat of targeted attacks on the United States. The report added that in the short term, the main concern was that Iran-aligned hacktivists would conduct low-level cyber attacks against US networks. Israeli Air Force claimed to have intercepted 2 drones that crossed from Lebanon. Israel said that infiltration of the drones took place early in the morning and were intercepted before it crossed into Israeli territory. All right, we're going to take you through some of the defining images that will make you understand the widespread damage, destruction, and fear across the Middle East at this point. New wave of Iranian missiles successfully evade U.S. air defense systems in Kuwait's skies.
They missed all of them.
The regional conflict has reached a critical flashpoint with Iran launching its largest retaliatory strike. Sirens were heard at Muwaffaq Salti Air Base in Jordan. Iranian missiles continue to pound U.S. bases in Bahrain. The strikes come as Tehran vows retaliation following U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran, raising fears of a wider regional conflict. U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet intercepted dozens of Iranian missiles and attack drones in Bahrain against the backdrop of the continued conflict in the Gulf area. U.S. has released another video of Operation Epic Fury. Secretary of War stated this morning U.S. forces are hitting Iran surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically. Aerial photo shows the graves where Iranian elementary school elements will be laid to rest. 168 students were killed in the U.S.-Israeli aggression in Minhab. Qatar Defense Forces shoot down 2 Su-24 aircraft of Iran. Qatar's air defense systems intercepted 7 ballistic missiles, while 5 drones were also neutralized through coordinated efforts. Gulistan Palace, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Iran's Tehran, has sustained damage in recent airstrikes. Iran has released new footage of damage claims. Israel airstrikes hit several areas in the city of Isfahan. UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed seen walking in public at Dubai Mall following the Iranian attack. The visit came as the UAE's air defenses intercepted dozens of drones and attacks launched by Iran. I'm going to go back to Yusuf, who's been standing by. He is joining us live from Tehran. I want to talk to you, Yusuf, also about the warning that Iran has issued, which is of any vessels that cross into the Strait of Hormuz. Is closing of the strait a serious option or just strategic signaling? And I want to understand from you, would Tehran risk alienating Gulf neighbors by escalating this at sea, including China?
Of course, Iran time and again said and warned that it would close the Strait of Hormuz and that any attack on its soil would not be limited to its borders, but it would just spill over to the entire region, including the countries that host U.S. bases and U.S. Diplomatic missions. And this is what is actually happening. If it was once a strategic signaling before the war erupted, it was back then, but right now it is far beyond strategic signaling. I think Iran is now ready to go all the way to fulfill its promises and its revenge vows, so to speak. And we can now see that the country is already engaged in attacking U.S. missions, U.S. assets in the region, no matter what the outcome would be. So they're bracing themselves for a regional conflagration, if you will, and among them is the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
I also want to understand from you, Yusuf, we've heard from Donald Trump over and over again in the last 5 to 6 days. Understanding from you at this point, how is President Donald Trump being portrayed in the Iranian media? Is he being portrayed as reckless, predictable? How is he being portrayed?
It depends on who you're referring to from the Iranian side. From the Iranian government's perspective, he's quote unquote a madman trying to wreak havoc on the Iranian nation and the Iranian society. But of course, there have been some comments from some part of the Iranian society. There have been some positive comments towards him. Some people may thank him for what he's doing right now, because a significant portion of the Iranian society is suffering under the economic hardship. And they've been trying to protest and to try to bring about a change in society or in the country's economy for better livelihoods, for stronger purchasing power. But nothing happened even following those protests that erupted in December last year and continued until January this year. So they've been waiting for, not all of them, but of course, a significant portion or strata of the Iranian society have been waiting for some change. And many have viewed an attack on Iran to be that moment, and to be that moment which would bring about a change for a better economy, for a better future for the youth, for Generation Z, which has been concerned about their future, an uncertain future, unemployment, and all these things. But of course, in the eyes of the Iranian government and pro-government part of the society, those people who have been engaged in holding rallies all across the country since the death of the supreme leader, these people are defying these strikes. These people are saying that we're not going to surrender, we're not going to submit, we're not going to just budge under pressure, and we will continue to withstand the pressure coming from the United States.
All right, thank you for joining me live. Yusuf Jalali there, live from Tehran at this moment. Appreciate you taking the time out to speak to us here on Breaking Ground. Moving on, the Middle East war, as you can see, is escalating by the moment. Iran has intensified its attacks. In response, Israel says it will not back down, while President Donald Trump claimed that Iran wants to surrender amid growing military pressure. We also saw the Israeli Prime Minister visiting an attack site, and that's when he spoke exclusively to NDTV and hailed Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, calling the Prime Minister a great friend. Netanyahu thanked India for the support. On the ground, the Israeli Defense Forces say they have struck over 70 Hezbollah facilities targeting infrastructure and launchers in southern Lebanon. Iran has also reportedly launched a new super heavy missile and fired at US bases, marking a dangerous new low in this conflict.
Can you say a word?
Yes, I spoke.
How was the meeting, sir?
I spoke to our great friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Spoke to him at length yesterday. Thanked him for his standing with Israel, standing for the truth, and for the enormous friendship of the people of India. They are much admired and loved in Israel, and I won't get into the details of the conversation, but I've spoken to him and I've spoken to many other leaders in the region and beyond. Thank you.
NDTV is right now in one of the locations that was attacked. You can see just behind me Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has visited this place. This is one of the locations where a deadly attack took place. 9 people were killed, and there were in fact more than 25 who were injured out here. You could see Netanyahu, in fact, visiting this particular location out here. And this is the latest that we are picking up in Bet Shemshesh, where, in fact, these are the visuals of the destruction that has happened all across. You can see the level of the destruction. The Prime Minister that is, in fact, looking at the visuals right now of the mayhem that occurred yesterday in the Iranian missile attack here. And, of course, these are the live visuals here on NDTV exclusively as we report on the West Asian crisis all across completely. Let's stay with these visuals of Prime Minister Netanyahu actually looking at the location. There were 9 people who died, but also children who became victims of this complete mayhem that has happened here. There are 3 different locations that were hit in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv in the last 3 days. Today is the 3rd day of the conflict taking shape here. But now, of course, the big question really, how will this conflict end? What is the end game really? And how exactly will peace be restored in the Middle East? Reporting from near Jerusalem in Israel, this is Aditya Raj Kaul for NDTV.
I want to show you some chilling details that we have access. This is an FT report that we are attributing it to. Now, new reports show and reveal chilling details of the alleged operation to eliminate Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei. According to the report by Financial Times, Israeli intelligence allegedly hacked nearly all traffic cameras for years. Tehran encrypting and transmitting live feeds to servers in Tel Aviv and southern Israel. Operators reportedly monitored movements around some streets for years, building detailed pattern of live dossiers on Khamenei's security guards. The report also claims Israel jammed cellular networks in the area, while the CIA is said to have provided human source intelligence. Now, real-time data streams allegedly help pinpoint precise timing, with Iran caught off guard. These are the inside details of how it led to the killing of Khamenei, and this is an FT report that we have just brought to you. News coming in. We're being told that Canada has shut its embassy in Riyadh amid attacks. Canada has announced the closure. The mission said it is closing today due to the current security situation, and said that all in-person appointments are cancelled through Friday, the 6th of March. Due to the current security situation, the Embassy of Canada in Riyadh is closed. Please know that all in-person appointments are cancelled through the 6th of March. Friday is what their statement reads. Darshan Dalal now joins me live. He's a journalist from Riyadh. Darshan, thank you for speaking to us here on Breaking Ground. Tense situation there in Riyadh. We have missions, we have embassies closing down. What can you share with us at this point after the attack also on the US embassy there?
Yes, absolutely. As you said, the embassy of US in Riyadh was targeted with 2 drones. And that's according to a statement from the Ministry of Defense here in Saudi Arabia, that a minor fire was sustained and there were no injuries reported. And this comes after the attack on the Ras Tanura oil refinery yesterday, as well as the 5 drones that were intercepted. And we also heard from the Ministry of Defense in Saudi Arabia that 8 hostile drones were also intercepted this morning. And this comes after the targeting of US embassy in Kuwait as well, which was closed. And following the attacks here on the embassy of America in Riyadh, it has been closed for all operational measures. All consular services have been closed as well. And as you just reported, that the Embassy of Canada here in Riyadh has also been closed for all consular services. And everybody has been asked for a shelter-in-place notice is also in effect. So it is a tense situation, tense 4 days for the region, very long 4 days, and it clearly shows how wider and bigger this conflict is getting.
Absolutely. Darshan Dalal, thanks for joining me live from Riyadh with that update. We're going to take a quick break at this point. I'll be back with more details. The focus now will be on the crisis when it comes to the oil supply, with the warning that Iran has issued on the Strait of Hormuz.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand. Motorola Signature, India's #1 camera phone. Grab Motorola Signature today.
आपको शायद पता नहीं होगा, अपार ने आईएनएस विक्रांत के लिए 150 से ज्यादा तरह के केबल्स बनाए हैं। देश के टॉर्पीडोस में भी हैं अपार के केबल्स। वंदे भारत भी अपार के केबल से ही स्पीड पकड़ती है और यही वायर्स और केबल्स हमारे घरों को भी पावर करते हैं। विश्वास इसमें अपार, तभी तो ये है देश का तार।
West Asia at war. Netanyahu thanks Prime Minister on NDTV.
I spoke to our great friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Spoke to him at length yesterday. Thanked him for his standing with Israel, standing for the truth.
Israel opposition leader Yair Lapid speaks to NDTV.
Is there gonna be an Iranian Gandhi who will free his own people from oppression? So it's up to them.
Israel Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar on NDTV.
Israel and US going to leave Iran in a complete chaos? Do you think that there will be a civilian leader who could take over?
Not Israel and not US will decide who will lead the Iranian people.
The voices that matter speak first and exclusive to NDTV. The man behind Roaring Lion.
Can you say a word?
Israel's warfighter Prime Minister on NDTV.
I spoke to our great friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Spoke to him at length yesterday. Thanked him for his standing with Israel, standing for the truth, and for the enormous friendship of the people of India. They are much admired and loved in Israel. And I won't get into the details of the conversation, but I've spoken to him and I've spoken to many other leaders in the region and beyond. Thank you.
First word since he declared war on Iran.
Just behind me, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
An NDTV world exclusive to Aditya Raj call. Benjamin Netanyahu on NDTV.
Across the country.
He has tracked the pulse of power from Washington to Korea. Witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones. Brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. Aditya Raj Call, covering international affairs like no one else. Only on NDTV network.
को यहाँ से जाना ही होगा।
There is no bigger battle in 2026, and nobody has reported Bengal like I have. Buckle up for an unforgettable election thriller. Will the BJP breach Mamta's fortress?
टीएमसी जावे, बीजेपी आसमे.
Can Didi fight off her life's biggest challenge?
BJP double engine সরকার এই লড়াই বাঁচতে হবে.
Battleground Bengal with Manogya Loiwal.
From 1983 to now, I have seen cricket evolve, but the mindset to win never changed. I tell you that what win matches and what doesn't. This T20 World Cup, let's talk cricket, controversies and more on NDTV.
First India tour in your city. Rag on with Shankar Ehsan Loy and Siddharth Mahadevan and Shivam Mahadevan. 5 times melody, 5 times masti with NDTV Good Time.
Welcome back. We're now going to shift focus here on breaking ground on the big crisis because of what's happening at the Strait of Hormuz. Middle East tensions due to the ongoing war have raised fears of the Strait of Hormuz, a key maritime route being closed, threatening crude oil and LNG supplies for Asian countries, including India and China. Tensions are escalating in the Gulf after an oil facility operated by Saudi Aramco was struck in Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, Qatar Energy has announced a halt in LNG production. Visuals show damage at the refinery site, raising concerns about potential disruptions to crude processing and exports. Striking satellite images show the damage done to Ras Tanura refinery in Saudi Arabia. An oil tanker was reportedly struck off the coast of Oman, while the impact is already being felt in Europe, where gas prices have surged by nearly 50% amid supply concerns. India's Petroleum Ministry is reviewing the fuel supply and strategic reserves to assess any potential fallout from the unfolding situation. Peter Maguire, CEO, Trading.com, joins me live. He's live from Australia at this point. Peter, thank you for speaking to us here on Breaking Ground. Peter, I want to understand from you, what happens if even 20% of Hormuz flows are disrupted?
Well, good afternoon, Vedika. I tell you what, it's broken $80 as far as Brent in the last minute or two. You've got NYMEX crude running over $73 now. So things are starting to escalate, and it's from a timeline perspective. To answer your question, there will be one thing and one thing only, and that will be an increase in price, and price will spike from there. So it's a work in progress to see whether this is going to be contained. But from the lens I'm looking through from Australia, I don't think it's looking like a contained situation. It's actually looking more out of control as each hour rolls.
Shut for a week. I want to understand from your estimates what breaks first, the supply chains, the currencies, or the equities?
First off, it'd be supply chains, but from a consumption chain perspective, you're going to see that would only be a matter of hours between each one. And naturally, the market sentiment will be very, very fragile. So equities will take on board a hit. There's no doubting that, and the commodity markets will boom to the upside as far as gold, oil, and probably some of the other energy markets and natural gas. And then you're looking at how do you manage from to try and from your supply side, and you know, these are the countries like China and as you mentioned, India. All of that is going to be across the fabric of the nation. It's going to be quite devastating.
Do stay with me. I want our viewers to understand more about the Strait of Hormuz as tensions continue rising between Iran and its rivals. Global attention is turning to one critical stretch of water, which is the Strait of Hormuz. But why does Hormuz matter? Let's tell you why. Well, this narrow passage, just about 33 kilometers wide, at its narrowest point connects the Persian Gulf to the open ocean through the Gulf of Oman. Now, one narrow waterway carries 20 million barrels of oil every single day. That means roughly 1 in every 5 barrels of oil consumed globally passes through this route. The Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. It's just about 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, one of the world's most important oil choke points, which now Iran is threatening everybody with. It is a choke point, and it leads to a massive supply of oil outside the region. Now, major Gulf producers like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait and Iraq depend heavily on this passage for their oil exports. Asia, of course, is the biggest customer of the oil that flows through here. For India, around 53% of its oil imports transit via the Strait of Hormuz. Like I said, nearly 20% of global petroleum consumption moves through here. Let's get you more of these points and statistics. Very important, the total oil flow, million barrels per day. We're talking about 2020, it was 19.1 million barrels per day. Now look at this, it's 20.1 in 2025. This has crude and condensate and petroleum products. Let's also tell you in terms of data and statistics when it comes to exports and imports where countries stand. Now again, this is statistics to do with million barrels per day from 2020 to the first quarter of 25. Those are the statistics. The exporters are Iran, Qatar, Kuwait, Iraq, UAE, Saudi Arabia. So these countries, of course, are being impacted at this point. The importers, of course, also being impacted. If we can also pull up those graphics. Okay, we don't have those graphics for you, but many countries at this point also being impacted. What could this mean? It could mean any disruption, whether due to conflict or blockade, could send oil prices sharply higher. That in turn may push up inflation and increase global shipping costs. Thus, in short, what happens in the Strait of Hormuz doesn't stay there. It impacts the world. And that's the graphic I was looking for. These are the importing countries. You have India as well out there. You have China, South Korea, Japan, Europe, USA, Saudi Arabia, all being impacted by that warning from Iran at this point. Going back to Peter, who's still with us and live from Australia at this point. Peter, at what point does oil become economically destabilizing for Asia?
Well, Vedika, I mean, first off, you've got to look at where that price point and where the pain threshold. If we were to see 90 or 95, that really creates a lot of hurt amongst Main Street. We all understand that. The price is felt in the wallet and the purse by the consumer instantly. Now, if prices are at 110 or 120, that really changes. And the other side, it'll be nearly a war in itself to try and get supply. Because it'll come down to, and I think if you take 20% of the global market out of the supply, then people will be looking at bidding up to try and get access to those barrels. So this is really very dynamic at the moment, how this plays out, and it looks like it's going to take a number of weeks before we get some form of resolution.
Right, Peter Maguire, thank you for joining me here on Breaking Ground. We will, of course, keep speaking to Peter on this story. It's not going on anywhere, unfortunately, for the days to come. It might just escalate even further. We have some breaking news coming in. We have BJP sources speaking to NDTV on Sonia Gandhi's article. Sonia Gandhi's recent article attempts to portray India's calibrated response to the ongoing West Asian crisis as silence. That characterization is not only misleading, it reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of how responsible diplomacy works. That's the latest. Sources telling NDTV from within the BJP on their stand and response to Sonia Gandhi's article. Remember, she has said that this is a disturbing departure from moral and diplomatic traditions, is what Sonia Gandhi had said while slamming the government. Aishwarya joining me live. Aishwarya, sources hitting back at Sonia Gandhi for her questioning the moral and diplomatic traditions, in this case, being pushed away.
Well, certainly this morning it was the Congress Parliamentary Party chairperson Sonia Gandhi who had stated that why government is not condemning the supreme leader of Iran's death and why there is no statement coming in from the government of India. And certainly this raises a question on the foreign policy of our government as well. Certainly the Congress Parliamentary Party chairperson stated this morning that they will be raising this issue in the upcoming session of the parliament and certainly will be seeking an answer as far as what is the foreign policy. Bharatiya Janata Party sources are now told us that where was Sonia Gandhi back then in 2011 when the UPA government was in place. Remember in 2011 when Gaddafi was killed during the Libyan uprising, it was the Congress UPA government who was in power, and there was no formal condolence nor mount any dramatic condemnation that was given by the government of India at that point in time, because and there was no such speaking of foreign responsibility that was raised. Foreign policy was guided by the foreign interest then, and that is what is happening today as well. The government sources clearly have indicated that a large diaspora lives in these Arab countries, and the government diplomacy clearly states that we have to look forward to those people as well, and giving any such statement will certainly hamper those people living in the Arab or the Middle East countries. So certainly it is Bharatiya Janata Party sources hitting back at Sonia Gandhi's diplomatic embassy.
All right, thanks for joining me live, Ashwar. We'll have to wrap it up there. Breaking Ground at 1 p.m. comes up next, where we will be focusing on everything unraveling within the Mideast and the ramifications that are reverberating across the world at this point. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back in a moment from now with Breaking Ground at 1 p.m.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand. Motorola Signature, India's #1 camera phone. Grab Motorola Signature today.
Money, fame, dirty money, fame. Spending millions every day, but I still the same. Ganti baji, jingle, 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 jingle. Bas aaj ka jingle, 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 jingle. Chal kare thode single, 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 single. Kyunki tu hai single, 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 single. Baby, I'm your Santa.
The front lines of Kargil. The fury of Operation Sindhu.
So many attacks.
The chaos and cries of disaster zones. To fighter jet cockpits. And the world's most defining interviews.
It's incredible.
He has seen history break. Live. Unfiltered. 20,000 hours of live broadcasting.
Welcome to Left, Right and Center.
Hard facts.
War-struck country.
Hard questions.
In the Ukraine.
30 years of trust.
In the Kargil area. North Ukraine. In France. In Italy. At Srinagar. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Vishnu Shom. Only on NDTV.
Straight from the heart of the newsroom to the core of the stories shaping your world. Join me, Gargi Raut, as I track all the developments as they break. Live from the NDTV newsroom, weekdays at 4 p.m.
All right, team, our new order show is ready. Now we need a promo. Something cool, something sharp.
Well, I'm sure we'll be having outstanding reviews, solid suggestions,
expert advice, the latest trends. It's a lot simpler. We'll help people make the right auto decisions. It's got the cool stuff, geeky stuff, serious stuff, all of it, so that you can discover, decide, and drive. I'm Siddharth Sharma, and I am your Automate.
What seems settled for me is unfinished business. So I rewind, I pause, I reflect, I dig until what's buried stands up to be counted. Breaking ground, not just headlines, the meaning behind them. This is Breaking Ground with me, Vedika Sood.
After the roaring success in Delhi, Hyderabad and Mumbai, the NDTV DP World PGTI Golf Pro-Am now travels to Ahmedabad. India's finest professionals, the city's most accomplished business leaders. Great golf, great company. NDTV DP World PGTI Golf Pro-Am. The course of champions, the conversation of leaders. 8th March, Kalhar Blues and Greens, Ahmedabad.
West Asia at war. Netanyahu thanks Prime Minister on NDTV.
I spoke to our great friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Spoke to him at length yesterday. Thanked him for his standing with Israel, standing for the truth.
Israel opposition leader Yair Lapid speaks to NDTV.
Is there gonna be an Iranian Gandhi who will free his own people from oppression? So it's up to them.
Israel Foreign Minister Gideon Saar on NDTV.
Israel and US going to leave Iran in a complete chaos? Do you think that there will be a civilian leader who could take over?
Not Israel and not the US will decide who will lead the Iranian people.
The voices that matter speak first and exclusive to NDTV. The man behind Roaring Lion.
Can you say a word?
Israel's warfighter prime minister on NDTV.
I spoke to our great friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Spoke to him at length yesterday. Thanked him for his standing with Israel, standing for the truth, and for the enormous friendship of the people of India. They are much admired and loved in Israel. And I won't get into the details of the conversation, but I've spoken to him and I've spoken to many other leaders in the region and beyond. Thank you.
First word since he declared.
Welcome back. You're watching Breaking Ground at 1 p.m. I'm Vedika Sood, and these are the headlines that we are tracking at this hour. Israel's offensive against Hezbollah strikes Hezbollah command centers and weapon facility. Huge blasts heard in Beirut. Iran continues to pound Israel. More than 30 missiles fired. Sirens blare across Tel Aviv. Iran intensifies attacks on Middle East. Missiles fired in Jordan, Bahrain, Riyadh. The US Embassy in Riyadh attacked. Trump warns of retaliation. US issues depart now alert. Here's Trump's warning. He says big war can be fought forever. Says US has virtually unlimited supply of weapons. Asserts US is stocked and ready to win big. Inside the plan to kill Ali Khamenei, reports say a human source provided exact time and location for strike to kill Ayatollah. Israeli intelligence allegedly hacked Tehran traffic cameras for years. Shutdown of Hormuz Strait raises fears of soaring oil prices. Iran warns will attack ships trying to pass the strait. Some flights from the Middle East have resumed. Relief for stranded Indians. Air India and Indigo partially resume operations in the area. News coming in. The US Embassy in Israel has told its citizens it is unable to assist in evacuations. This is the US Embassy in Jerusalem, and I'm going to quote them here. The US Embassy is not in a position at this time to evacuate or directly assist Americans in departing Israel. The following is provided for your information as you make your own security plans. The Israeli Ministry of Tourism has begun operating shuttles to the Taba border crossing as of the 2nd of March. To be added to the passenger list for a shuttle, you must register via the ministry's evacuation form. The US Embassy cannot make any recommendation for or against the Ministry of Tourism's shuttle. If you choose to avail yourself of this option to depart, the US government cannot guarantee your safety. The information is provided as a courtesy to those wishing to leave Israel. Well, so as you can see, this is is an advisory now, a statement coming out from the US Embassy in Jerusalem. What it essentially means is that the US Embassy is saying that it is in no position to help in the evacuations of Americans in Israel. They've left it to them now to find their way out. There is a suggestion there to use a shuttle that is being provided by the Israeli government. But once again out there, the claim, or rather the disclaimer, is that we cannot advise for it or against it. The bottom line here for now is that American nationals in Israel are on their own. It also leads to the larger question here of whether the US really thought through this conflict. Was there really a roadmap for them to follow? And this perhaps a small indication leading to those bigger questions. But for now, this is the latest we have for you. US tells Americans in the country to evacuate, but to find a way to evacuate themselves. They are in no position to help them at this time. That's the latest that we have for you. You also had Donald Trump speaking out some hours back. You've heard loud blasts being heard above the US Embassy in Saudi Arabia's Riyadh also on Monday night. There are consulates and missions also closing in other parts of the Middle East as a precaution after Iran has stated and warned that US nationals, US personnel, US installations, US establishments will be on their radar. They've also gone on to say you can hide, but we will find you. So after those warnings comes this statement from the US Embassy in Jerusalem, which of course is worrying for US nationals, isn't it? Aditya Rajkol joining us live from Tel Aviv. Aditya, essentially what this statement, this advisory, whatever you may call it, indicates is that US nationals in Israel have been left to themselves to fend for themselves at this point because the US Embassy is in no position to help them evacuate.
Well, that's right. It's a huge statement. Usually, US embassies or US Department of State does not issue such statements, but it is the helplessness that has perhaps resulted in this. The US Embassy in Jerusalem has, informed its citizens in America, and they have a branch office in Tel Aviv as well, that they are unable to help them at this particular stage. They're saying that a crossing that is with Egypt, and possibly there could be evacuation from that side. But as of now, there's a status quo. They have to fend for themselves. They need to take shelter and be safe by their own means by taking precautions. So US is unable to assist their own citizens in Israel at this particular stage. They cannot help them. They cannot even give any kind of consular services at this particular stage. So it is a kind of a status quo for the American citizens as well. Many of them are in Israel right now because they usually come. There are a lot of American Jews also who keep traveling here to Israel. So it is a huge statement coming in from the US Embassy in Jerusalem that they are unable to help their citizens, cannot assist at this particular stage. Perhaps there will be buses running to the Taba border crossing with Egypt. That's at the border crossing between Israel and Egypt.
Yes.
From there, perhaps they can take flights from Cairo.
The bigger question then, Aditya, also is if Donald Trump, the US, thought through this conflict before it started. Was there really a roadmap is the big question.
Well, there is a roadmap always whenever there is such kind of a conflict brewing, and perhaps US and Israel in this particular conflict had been planning for a very long time. In fact, for a few weeks now, or if not months, they had perhaps kept in mind that there would be citizens that would be stranded in many areas, but often, there are situations that are, beyond control. For instance, the attacks that have happened in several countries apart from Israel, from UAE to Saudi Arabia to Qatar, and in fact Bahrain and Kuwait also, apart from Oman, who have faced frequent missile attacks from Iranian side. And certainly it is a big development as US now says it's unable to help its citizens in Israel.
Okay, do stay with me, Aditya. We have some breaking news coming in. All right, we're going to now tell you how this operation unfolded when it comes to the US President Donald Trump. What we have learned is that President Donald Trump gave the go-ahead for a massive US military strike against Iran late last week, an operation that unfolded in dramatic fashion At 12:25 Eastern, the president left the White House for Texas, telling reporters he was not happy with nuclear talks. Just over 3 hours later, aboard Air Force One, he issued the order for what the Pentagon called Operation Epic Fury. By 1:15 in the morning, the strikes were underway. Explosions rocked Tehran as U.S. forces hit targets across land, air, sea and cyber. Within minutes, Iran's supreme leader and dozens of senior military officials were reportedly killed. So we're going to bring you that entire timeline in a moment from now, but here, let's listen in to some of the reactions.
Celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands.
So what we're learning now, Aditya, at this point is that this operation was given the go-ahead, if I'm not mistaken, on the 27th of February at about 12:25 p.m. We're learning that President Trump expressed displeasure with Iran, and at 3:38, while he was aboard Air Force One, he gave the nod to the strikes.
Well, that's right. That's what we are picking up from top sources in the U.S. administration, that it was on Feb 27th that Trump had expressed displeasure with the way talks have been held in Geneva. Iran was not complying with the key asks of the U.S. and the Israeli delegations that clearly indicated that Iran needs to completely come on the table when it comes to the nuclear the sites enrichment, that it will not continue for the foreseeable future and surrender that completely to the United States. That clearly did not happen, and it was then on Feb 27 that Trump on board the Air Force One gave the orders to go ahead with the strike. There was a communication between the CIA and Mossad that was established. Both Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke to the Mossad chief, and of course US President Donald Trump also spoke to the CIA chief and top security establishment, including the Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth, and then the orders were given. Initially, the orders were to conduct the strike on 28th evening or 28th night, but there was intelligence that was gathered both by CIA and Mossad that indicated that Khamenei will be attending a key meeting on the 20th early morning. Remember, they had been tracking through human intelligence and technical intelligence. Traffic cameras were completely monitored for years together, but it was a key human intelligence down on ground that clearly indicated and pinpointed the location of Khamenei. And finally, on Feb 28th, early morning, we saw the first strikes happen. I myself was heading towards the Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv. The moment I landed there, the first strikes had begun and sirens started buzzing all across Israel. So these are the first initial details that we are picking up behind the scenes, what exactly happened when the first strikes happened against Iran by US and Israel on Feb 28.
For more details on this, Aditya, I'm joined by Vishal in the newsroom. Vishal, just take us through that timeline. These are important days, dates and timings that we have accessed.
Vedika, so we have accessed an Associated Press report that seems to shed light on how the whole operation unfolded and how Trump decided to give a go-ahead to that big operation called Operation Fury. We'll have the details on our screen. The first thing that we have to talk about is how at the time of 12:25 p.m. EST, US President expressed displeasure with Iran. So this is when the talks had just been finished and he had been receiving some inputs from those talks that Iran was trying to arm twist the US side into accepting the deal. And that is when at about 3:30 p.m. EST, aboard the Air Force One aircraft, Trump launched the op. So within a space of 3 hours, this decision was taken that the operation will be going ahead. The planning was already in place. We had been reporting throughout that at least 50,000 troops could have been positioned. And the GOP lawmakers that were accompanying Trump on board the plane, on board his own plane, they seemed to largely agree with whatever Trump was planning to do. There was some, tension on the plane, but most of the GOP lawmakers, being Trump's own party, they agreed with what Trump was trying to do. Moving on, at 4:30 p.m. EST is when Trump landed in Texas, and this is not when Trump divulged to the world that the plan was a go-ahead. Trump lands in Texas and does not really divulge the plan to the world. So this is the time when the world does not know what is going to happen in the next few hours. He has briefed his team that whatever the plan is, but the world doesn't know. Lastly, at 1:15 a.m. EST, the military strikes begin across Tehran, bombs across Tehran, and some reported strikes at the top installations in Tehran. So this is when the world got to know that the big war had begun. And about 4:37 p.m. EST, Trump announces that Khamenei, the longtime leader of Iran, had been killed in the joint operation with Israel. This is how it all unfolded, and it took just about 3 hours for Trump to decide that war will happen in the Middle East.
Riyaz, Vishal, thanks for breaking it down for us here on Breaking Ground. Important details there. Access, of course, that is an AP report that we are quoting from. Moving on now, let's just bring you the updates on the big story. US President Donald Trump has claimed that American munition stockpiles are at a record high and that US has a virtually unlimited supply of weapons. He claimed that US can fight a war forever with the current supplies and is ready to win it big. US has shut down its embassy in Kuwait and that the embassy will be closed till further notice has also been stated. US has also announced that it has cancelled all regular and emergency consular appointments there. Canada has also shut its embassy in Riyadh. The mission said it is closing today due to current security situation and said that all in-person appointments are cancelled through Friday, the 6th of March, this after the attack on the US embassy in Riyadh. The UAE has slammed a report on its stockpiles. In a statement issued by its foreign ministry, it said that it has a robust stockpile and will ensure sustained interception of missiles from Iran. The UAE was reacting to a report that had questioned UAE and Qatar's stockpiles. A report from the Office of Intelligence and Analysis at the Department of Homeland Security said Iran and its proxies probably pose a threat of targeted attacks on the United States of America. The report added that in the short term, the main concern was that Iran-aligned hacktivists would conduct low-level cyber attacks against US networks. I also want to take you through some of the most defining images that we're going to bring to you while the Israel-Iran war is intensifying by the minute. Missiles fly thick and fast with both sides warning each other. There's death and destruction on both sides. Buildings have turned into rubbles. We bring you these defining images. Israel has launched fresh airstrikes against Iran. Israel launched a barrage of missiles across its enemy country, Iran. Explosions rang out across southern Beirut with plumes of smoke seen rising over the Babda area. Israel is said to have targeted a Hezbollah weapons storage facility. A commercial airplane was seen taking off amid smoke and explosions after Israeli airstrikes hit the Lebanese capital. The US military has released video of a strike on an Iranian ship. The military said that it had taken out 11 Iranian warships. IDF has launched a video of attack on Iran. Air Force aircraft attacked and neutralized a squad of soldiers from Iran. Israeli Defense Forces strike over 70 Hezbollah terror group weapon storage facilities, launch positions and launchers as the Middle East war widens. Hezbollah-affiliated Al-Manar TV was hit by Israeli airstrikes in Beirut's southern suburbs. The Israel Defense Forces issued an evacuation warning for the area of Beirut containing the channel's headquarters shortly before the strike. Iran-allied fighters have released footage of targeting the US-run Victoria base near Baghdad International Airport. 2 drones targeted the US Victoria base near that airport. Iran has launched new super-heavy missiles. Iran is targeting US bases in the region as no end to this war is in sight. Situation in the Middle East escalates as Iraqi resistance group carried out drone attacks on hotels housing US troops in Erbil. Iran has launched a fresh wave of ballistic missiles and drones across Israel. Sirens rang out across Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and southern Israel. To understand what's happening inside Israel at this moment, I'm joined by Ariel Kahana, diplomatic commentator with Israel Hayom Daily. Ariel, thank you once again for joining me here on Breaking Ground. Firstly, just an update from what's been happening in Israel, what's happening in Jerusalem as of now.
Hello, Vedika. It's good to be with you again. So actually today in Israel, it's a holiday, actually a festival we celebrate, we commemorate an ancient effort by the Persians, you wouldn't believe, to destroy our nation. It's written in our old scriptures. I mean, history in this way is kind of a circle because it came back. By the way, but in our time, it's not the Iranian people who want to destroy us. It's the current Iranian regime. So it's kind of, the feeling here is kind of history comes back. In any case, we had quite a few alarms tonight. We had one this morning. And also, as you described before, we have now another front in the north because Hezbollah, which is an Iranian proxy, decided to join the war and is shooting missiles over the northern part of Israel. So definitely it's a war. It's a war. It's a tense war. But at the same time, I know that the vast majority of Israelis understands to have Iran now with hundreds of missiles is bad, but to have Iran with thousands of missiles, including some nuclear bombs, that would be much worse.
Ariel, how real is the risk of Hezbollah opening a full northern front? Can Israel fight on multiple fronts simultaneously?
Yes, we definitely have the ability. We've prepared for such a war. And, you know, don't forget, actually, we are already in a multi-front war for 2.5 years now. So, yes, we can make it. I can tell you that even in my family, a lot of people went to the reverse, including my son-in-law. He was called, and my son and others. So they were all called to serve once again. We, you know, the Jewish people, we have our history. We know that if we wouldn't stand and fight for our destiny, then let's say there are too many nations around the world that don't like us. So we have to protect ourselves. And yes, we already, just this morning, it's a new update, the IDF, the Israeli army, invaded, I understand in a slightly move, but on the ground as well, into Lebanon, where Hezbollah is operating, and that is made again to protect especially our north border, because Hezbollah is acting there, and 2 days ago decided to join the war. So again, we have to protect ourselves, we have to protect our villages, and we do that. We have no other choice.
So are Gulf states quietly aligned with Israel is the big question at this point, Ariel, despite public caution?
I couldn't hear the question. If you can repeat, please.
My question is, are Gulf states quietly aligned with Israel at this point?
I believe the answer is yes. I mean, as I said before, Israelis understand that we have no other choice, because Iran was developing developing actually 100 missiles every month. Okay, so if we and our Arab neighbors are suffering these days, I would say with 100 missiles on Israel, on the UAE, Bahrain, Saudi, etc., just imagine what would have happened if we wouldn't strike them now. It means that in 1 year from now, they would have much more missiles. So again, Israeli public is paying a price. We have now 11 casualties since this operation began. But it's well understood that if we would have waited, it could have been much worse. So the government definitely gets support from this operation, including from the opposition, and it's definitely a consensus here in Israel to go for that war. Hopefully to win it, of course.
Ariel, do stay with me. I'm going to come back to you in a moment from now, but more updates coming in on our rolling coverage. After Hezbollah launched rockets on Israel seeking revenge following Khamenei's death, Israel has now launched an offensive campaign against Hezbollah, opening up the Lebanese front up north. We just heard from Ariel responding to that question on whether Israel can afford to do this up north with the Hezbollah. Now, as per reports, over 70 ammunition storage facilities of Hezbollah have been destroyed by Israel so far, including the elimination of Hezbollah's intel chief. Latest information indicates that Israeli army has struck Hezbollah command centers and weapons storage centers. Lebanon government claims at least 52 people have been killed. Not just that, Israel has also set the target on the back of Hassan Nasrallah's successor, Naim Qassem, who serves as the new head of Hezbollah, stating that he is marked for elimination. Hezbollah has come out with a statement saying that aggression can't go on without response, and confrontation is their legitimate right.
בלילה, מטוסי הקרב של חיל האוויר טסים מעל שמי לבנון. ותוקפים בעוצמה עשרות מטרות של ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה. הבוקר חיסלנו בתקיפה ממוקדת בדחיה שבביירות את חוסיין מקלד, אחראי מטה המודיעין של ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה. בנוסף, השלמנו סדרת תקיפות נגד נכסים כלכליים מרכזיים של אגודת אל-קרד אל-חסן, המשמשת כתשתית מרכזית לניהול כספיו של ארגון הטרור חיזבאללה.
Our objectives are clear. No nuclear weapon, no ballistic missile threat, destroy their navy, and crush the regime's proxy network. We are hitting decisively, surgically, without apology. While we strike military facilities and the machinery of terror with precision, the Iranian regime strikes civilians. We will not stop until we achieve our objectives.
Going back to Ariel, at the top of my show, at about 1 o'clock, about 25 minutes back, we started with news that was coming in that the U.S. Embassy in Israel has told its citizens it's unable to assist in evacuations. I want to understand from you the situation for U.S. nationals who, of course, Iran already mentioning are on target.
So indeed, it's very hard. I wouldn't say impossible, but it is very, very hard to now leave the country because all commercial flights has ended. Of course, because Iran is targeting our main airports, the Ben Gurion airports, and other airports actually are closed. So it is very hard, but I can tell you from experience and from the past that foreigners who live here can go to neighbor countries like Jordan, and from there to take a flight abroad. So it's not completely impossible. As you said, the American embassy is saying we can assist you now, but it's not that it's completely impossible to leave. But Vedika, Israel is a tiny country. It's a very tiny country. You know, we don't have enough room on the map to sign our name, since our land is so small. So that's why when the country is in a war, the main airport is closed. But again, I will keep tell you that Israelis, which like a lot, and you have a lot of Israelis who are coming to take a trip in India, for example, still we understand that we have to do it now, because otherwise the future would have been much more dark. So we do it now. I think it's very important to emphasize that the reason for that war is because of the Iranian current regime, the mullahs.
Okay.
They declared for decades they want to destroy my country. Okay.
All right,
no
but we also brought to our viewers, and Ariel, thank you for joining me and breaking ground, how it took just a couple of hours for the US president to go ahead and decide that this will escalate into a conflict, a decision that was taken late last week. On NDTV, in the last 18 hours, we have brought you the top voices that matter, be it the Prime Minister of Israel, be it the former Prime Minister of Israel, or the Foreign Minister. We're now going to get you their voices for the next 15 minutes on the channel. Let's start with Netanyahu. While we tell you that the Middle East war is escalating rapidly, Iran has intensified its attacks with strikes reported in different areas of Israel. In response, Israel says it will not back down. US President Donald Trump claimed that Iran wants to surrender amid growing military pressure. Now, while visiting an attack site, Israeli Prime Minister exclusively spoke to NDTV and hailed Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, calling Modi a great friend. Netanyahu thanked India for its support. On the ground, the Israeli Defense Forces say they have struck over 70 Hezbollah facilities targeting infrastructure and launchers in southern Lebanon. Iran has also reportedly launched a new super heavy missile and fired at US bases, marking a dangerous new phase in the conflict. But first, let's bring to you that exclusive conversation between my colleague Aditya Rajkol and Netanyahu.
Can you say a word?
Yes, I spoke.
How was the meeting, sir?
I spoke to our great friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Spoke to him at length yesterday. Thanked him for his standing with Israel, standing for the truth, and for the enormous friendship of the people of India. They are much admired and loved in Israel. And I won't get into the details of the conversation, but I've spoken to him and I've spoken to many other leaders in the region and beyond. Thank you.
Also in an exclusive conversation again with my colleague Aditya Rajkol, Israeli Foreign Minister has said that Iran was wasting time not meeting deadlines on US restrictions over its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Here's that exclusive.
Just 2 days after the Israeli and the American joint strikes inside of Iran, where Khamenei was in fact neutralized. The supreme leader is no more amongst us in Iran. There are more than 40 commanders of the IRGC who have been eliminated as well. The airstrikes continue even as I speak. While I was coming inside the foreign ministry of Israel, there were missiles that were thrown inside Jerusalem that were neutralized by the Israeli defense mechanism. But here on a World Exclusive, joining us live for the first time after the conflict broke out in the last 2 days is Gideon Saar, the Foreign Minister of Israel. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening.
It's a very critical time, but the first question that comes to the mind of each and every person here who's been observing is that what was the need to get into a conflict or a war at a time when negotiations were underway? We saw talks in Geneva take place, and there was a commitment made that technical negotiations and agreements will in fact take place in Vienna, Austria. But what was the urgency to go in and eliminate Khamenei?
But those who conduct the negotiations, the Americans themselves, came into conclusion that Iran, as usual, is wasting time, not meeting the American red lines with regard to the nuclear program, Iranian nuclear program, not meeting the American red lines with regard to the ballistic missiles program. So altogether, we knew that within a very short time, Iran is going to put all its nuclear program in a very deep underground installation where not Israel and not America can hit effectively from the air. They plan to do the same thing with ballistic missiles production. So that would put them in, I would say, immunity place, and they can do whatever they want to do. You can see only from the last days how much this regime is dangerous. They are hitting not only us, our civilian population, but also Arab countries in the region without any provocation. So this is an extremely dangerous regime for their own people, as we saw in the way they butchered their own people during the last protest, to all countries in the region. And of course, for us, it's an existential threat. And therefore, since we thought time is of essence from the reasons I just mentioned, and also time is of essence taking into consideration the expectations of the Iranian people that fought bravely for their freedom, but reasonably cannot achieve it without any help from outside.
Minister,
so this is why we decided with our American friends that we must act. There are, of course, complications that might happen, but it's more dangerous not to act rather than to act in this situation.
Fair enough. I'll come to what is happening now and what's been happening over the last 3 days. But first, you had Oman acting as a mediator between US and Iran. There were talks that were happening. The Oman foreign minister was on record to say that perhaps in the next 90 days there was some kind of an outcome that could happen on a peace agreement. There were technical details that could be discussed. And now the foreign minister of Oman said that he's dismayed. He's thinking that there was a talks process underway. There was a step-by-step process that could have led to perhaps some kind of an agreement. But now Oman says that whatever commitment was there has been violated. How do you respond to that?
I don't think I have to respond to that because we were not a side or a part to the negotiations. The Americans handled it. And it is true that, as always, President Trump preferred to reach an agreed solution to this thing. But as it happened on June, he found out eventually that they can waste time forever, but they will not reach to a good agreement. And the bad agreement is something that Americans didn't want to achieve.
A regime change from outside is either rare or impossible, is what Israel's opposition leader Yair Lapid told NDTV in an exclusive conversation with NDTV's managing editor Shiva Roor. Here's that exclusive conversation.
Yair Lapid, he is the leader of the opposition in Israel. He is live with me tonight from Tel Aviv. Mr. Lapid, thank you for your time. It is a difficult period for your country, for the region, for Iran, for innocent people in all of these places that stand affected. And I know there have been casualties in your country as well. As day 3 comes to an end since this operation began, what's going through your mind? What are your thoughts today, Mr. Lapid? I'd like to begin with that.
Well, the first thought was that you said 3 days, and I thought to myself, it looks like 3 months because of the scale of the events. I just came back here, before talking to you, I came back from the city of Bet Shemesh, in which I visited the site of a missile fall that killed 9 people, among them 3 children from the same family. So what's going through my mind, I'm thinking about the mother and the father of those 3 children. Israel, like India, is a country in which family ties are the most important thing, is the core of the culture. And for us, it's devastating. But we understand that we're fighting a just war. It doesn't happen often, that in 21st century, there's a moral clarity the way there is now. It is a just war against a horrible regime that is not only a danger to Israel and to the entire global community, but also to its own people. Just last month in January, we saw the young people of Iran taking to the streets trying to fight this very oppressive regime. So it is the right war, it is a just war, but it doesn't make it any easier.
Once again, let's bring you some defining images from this conflict that is raging on in the Middle East. We start with a new wave of Iranian missiles successfully evading US air defense systems. This is in Kuwait's skies. Let's just bring up those visuals for you.
How did they miss all of it?
New wave of Iranian missiles successfully evade US air defense systems in Kuwait's skies. flashpoint with Iran launching its largest retaliatory strike. Sirens were heard at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan. Iranian missiles continue pounding U.S. bases in Bahrain. The strikes come as Tehran vows retaliation following U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran, raising fears of a wider regional conflict. U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet intercepted dozens of Iranian missiles and attacked drones in Bahrain against the backdrop of the continued conflict. The United States of America has released another video of Operation Epic Fury. Secretary of War stated this morning U.S. forces are hitting Iran surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically. Aerial photo shows the graves where Iranian elementary school students will be laid to rest. 168 students were killed in the U.S.-Israeli joint aggression in Minab. Funeral procession was held for the 168 Iranian schoolgirls of the Shajara Tayyabeh school in Minab who were killed in a joint attack by the US and Israeli. Qatar Defense Forces shoot down 2 Su-24 aircraft of Iran. Qatar's air defense systems intercepted 7 ballistic missiles, while 5 drones were also neutralized through coordinated efforts. Golestan Palace, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Iran's Tehran, has sustained damage in recent US-Israeli airstrikes. Iran releases new footage of damage, claims Israel airstrikes hit several areas in the city of Isfahan. UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed seen walking in public at Dubai Mall following the Iranian attack. The visit came as the UAE's air defenses intercepted dozens of drones and attacks launched by Iran. The latest set of high-resolution satellite imagery of some of the areas where strikes have taken place give you a clear idea of the extent of damage. These images are from Saudi Arabia's Ras Tanura refinery. The satellite image of this refinery captured post-attack on the 2nd of March 2026 shows extensive dark smoke plumes rising from multiple areas amid the industrial complex, particularly concentrated in the central processing sections with visible burn scars, scorched infrastructure and blackened zones around pipes, tanks and processing units. The satellite image of Bandar Abbas port captured amid the ongoing conflict on the 2nd of March 2026 reveals massive dark plumes of black smoke billowing across large sections of the facility, particularly shrouding the central naval and commercial docks, with visible fires on at least one berth vessel and thick haze obscuring parts of the piers and surrounding infrastructure. The satellite image of Jebel Ali port in Dubai captured on the 3rd of March 2026 shows thick black smoke plumes rising prominently from multiple areas, particularly concentrated over container berths, storage yards and sections near the docks, with dark haze spreading across parts of the massive facility and obscuring some infrastructure amid the surrounding water and urban layout. The 2nd March 2026 satellite image from Vanter of Iran's Natanz nuclear facility reveals fresh damage marked by orange circles, including the apparent destruction or severe impact to at least 3 buildings, primarily 2 personal entrances and a vehicle access ramp to the underground uranium enrichment halls, along with visible debris, structural collapse and scorched or altered ground to those targeted areas. What we've just brought to you are 4 different satellite images from 4 different areas that were hit. We have breaking news coming in. We're being told that Iran advisor Jabari has declared shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has said anyone who wants to pass will be destroyed by fire. Iran has gone on to say not a drop of oil will be exported. And we also have got to know at this point, according to the IRGC, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and they've gone on to say anyone who wants to pass will be destroyed by fire by a heroic and devoted forces in the Navy of the IRGC essentially, and the army. Aditya Rajkol joining us. Aditya, this is a big blow not only to the Mideast but to countries who depend on the Strait of Hormuz for their supply of oil.
Well, yes, it's a huge statement coming in. Also a warning and a threat from the Iranian side claiming that the Strait of Hormuz will be completely shut and any kind of shipping route, oil trade or connectivity that happens through that or the ships that attempt to pass Strait of Hormuz will be attacked and will be destroyed by the Iranian missile fire. This is a huge escalation from the Iranian side. Trump on the other side has also claimed that he will not allow Strait of Hormuz to be in fact shut and close at this particular stage. And we do know for sure right now that Donald Trump also claimed, along with the U.S. Central Command, that 9 ships and 9 vessels of the Iranian government and the Iranian regime have been already destroyed and sunk in that particular area. So clearly, it's a huge challenge, of course, the Iranian threat, but at the same time, US, Israel and other countries trying to thwart all these attempts. UK and France also trying to join in this mission of attempting to safeguard the interests of the Western allies in this entire region. But certainly, the kind of chaos and conflict that we are witnessing right now is bound to create a lot of problems when it comes to oil trade, connectivity, trade during this entire region, during this time. And of course, a lot of hurdles will be there for common people as well, as shipping routes become a target of Iran and its proxies in the region. So it's a new statement coming in from the advisor, a top advisor from the Iranian IRGC, claiming that the Western vessels, etc., will not be allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. But it does seem that Trump administration and Israel are likely to attack Iranian Navy more, although the Iranian Navy has no comparison with the Navy of United States or even of the Western countries, even Israel, but certainly a threat that certainly cannot be ignored.
All right, so global oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz have all but frozen, choking off nearly 86% of normal east-west crude traffic and pushing energy markets to the brink. On that note, simply a short break. I'll be back in a moment from now. Stay tuned to Breaking Ground at 1 p.m.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand. Motorola Signature, India's #1 camera phone. Grab Motorola Signature today.
Front lines of Kargil, the fury of Operation Sindhu,
so many attacks,
the chaos and cries of disaster zones, to fighter jet cockpits, and the world's most defining interviews.
It's incredible.
He has seen history break, live, unfiltered. 20,000 hours of live broadcasting.
Welcome to Left, Right and Center.
Hard facts.
War-struck country.
Hard questions.
In the Ukraine.
30 years of trust.
In the Kargil area. North Ukraine. In France. In Italy. At Srinagar. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Vishnu Shom. Only on NDTV.
Across the country.
He has tracked the pulse of power from Washington to Korea. Witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones. Brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. Aditya Raj Kaul, covering international affairs like no one else. Only on NDTV network.
Alright team, our new order show is ready. Now we need a promo. Something cool, something sharp.
Well, I'm sure we'll be having outstanding reviews, solid suggestions,
expert advice, the latest trends. It's a lot simpler. We'll help people make the right auto decisions. It's got the cool stuff, geeky stuff, serious stuff, all of it, so that you can discover, decide and drive. I'm Siddharth Sharma and I am your Automate.
Straight from the heart of the newsroom to the core of the stories shaping your world. Join me, Gargi Raut, as I track all the developments as they break. Live from the NDTV newsroom.
In news is coming in, we have breaking news coming in from what Rahul Gandhi has said. In a statement made on X, Rahul Gandhi has slammed the Modi government. Escalating hostilities between the United States, Israel and Iran are pushing a fragile region toward wider conflict, he says. Crores of people, including nearly a crore Indians, face uncertainty. He goes on to then say, while security concerns are real, attacks that violate sovereignty will only worsen the crisis. The unilateral attacks on Iran as well as Iran's attacks on the other Middle Eastern nations must be condemned. Violence begets violence. Dialogue and restraint remain the only path to peace. Then slamming the Modi government, he says Prime Minister Modi must speak up. Does he support the assassination of a head of state as a way to define the world order? Silence now diminishes India's standing in the world. Tejshri joining me live on this developing story. Tejshri, you have Rahul Gandhi in many ways echoing what Sonia Gandhi had said some time back.
Well, yes, absolutely. We have just seen the social media post made by, in fact, Rahul Gandhi, who in fact is stating that India must be morally clear. The manner in which India is responding, it is not at all correct. And in fact, he is also raising the questions that is PM Modi supporting the assassination, and also in fact has hit out at the government, particularly Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on killing of the supreme leader of Iran. Not just that, but today also, in fact, we just saw the post of, we also saw the article of Sonia Gandhi, the Congress leader, who in fact also went on to slam the government, raised questions as to why the government is silent on so many killings, and the manner in which the government is taking side, it is completely condemnable, is what they have been trying to say. Other Congress leaders have also in fact been reiterating the same line, that whatever is happening in Iran is the Indian government supporting it. Why there is no single statement made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi condemning the killing of their supreme leader of Iran. And not just that, but also in fact the stand should be more clear so as to what the stand as of now the government is taking, and do they support the kind of assassination, the kind of killings that is taking place there in Iran by the Israel supported by US.
All right, thank you for joining me live there. Let's also just tell our viewers that the Congress Parliamentary Party chairperson Sonia Gandhi had also launched a sharp attack on the centre, calling its silence over the reported targeted killing of Iran's supreme leader an abdication, not neutrality. In a strongly worded article, Sonia Gandhi questioned the direction and credibility of India's foreign policy, saying the government's stance raises serious questions. The BJP has hit back, calling her remarks misleading and politically motivated. Party sources have told NDTV that to say diplomacy cannot be reduced to public posturing, and they went on to defend India's calibrated response to the West Asian crisis. BJP leaders also pointed out that in 2011, when Libya's former leader Gaddafi was killed, the Congress-led UPA government neither issued a formal condolence nor strong condemnation. On that note, we're slipping a short break. News and updates will continue on the other side here on NDTV 24/7. Thanks for watching Breaking Ground.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand. Motorola Signature, India's #1 camera phone. Grab Motorola Signature today.
From 1983 to now, I have seen cricket evolve, but the mindset to win never changed. I tell you that what win matches and what doesn't. This T20 World Cup, let's talk cricket, controversies and more on NDTV.
इनको यहाँ से जाना ही होगा।
जय मां दुर्गा!
There is no bigger battle in 2026. And nobody has reported Bengal like I have. Buckle up for an unforgettable election thriller. Will the BJP breach Mamta's fortress?
TMC जावे, BJP आसपे.
Can Didi fight off her life's biggest challenge?
BJP double engine সরকার এই লড়াই বাঁচতে হবে।
Battleground Bengal with Manogya Loiwal.
What seems settled for me is unfinished business. So I rewind, I pause, I reflect, I dig until what's buried stands up to be counted. Breaking ground, not just headlines, the meaning behind them. This is Breaking Ground with me, Vedika Sood.
The front lines of Kargil. The fury of Operation Sindhu.
So many attacks.
The chaos and cries of disaster zones. To fighter jet cockpits. And the world's most defining interviews.
It's incredible.
He has seen history break. Live. Unfiltered. 20,000 hours of live broadcasting.
Welcome to Left, Right and Center.
Hard facts.
War-struck country.
Hard questions.
In the Ukraine.
30 years of trust.
In the Kargil area. North Ukraine. In France. In Italy. At Srinagar. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Vishnu Shom. Only on NDTV.
Across the country.
He has tracked the pulse of power from Washington to Korea. Witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones. Brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. Aditya Raj Kaul, covering international affairs like no one else. Only